have Deep Kalra. And I loved this quote of his. He said, "However big or small, make it a good business. Make it a clean business. Make it a business you are very proud of." Wonderful words, Deep, and we would love to hear more about your thoughts. Deep Kalra, founder and group CEO of MakeMyTrip.com, a NASDAQ-listed firm and India's leading online travel business. An alum of St. Stephen's College and IIM Ahmedabad.
Thank you, Madhvi. It's really embarrassing to speak. Sorry, I'm putting on my timer because I'm not trusting that timer. So Madhvi has given me 10 to 12 minutes to cover 14 years of my life at Make My Trip and a little beyond. So it's going to be a little hard, but I'm going to do it, I think. But what's really hard is to come and speak in front of this alumni across IIM, especially with my own batchmates here, because batchmates know exactly how much you can bullshit and how much you can do ACP. I don't know if the other IIMs had ACP, but we had a lot of ACP, ABIT CP. Okay, we got points for class participation, and some of us almost passed only because of that. So, but what I'm going to speak about is hopefully no ACP. I actually spent a lot of time thinking about it on the flight coming in terms of what needs to be said in 10 to 12 minutes, which is really my learnings from Make My Trip journey. This is a very busy graph, and I don't intend to walk you through the whole graph or the whole slide. The idea is just to share with you this life journey at Make My Trip. It's been about 14 years, 4 different phases of Make My Trip. The first phase, which was really a dream start, I had a business plan which got funded. I was very fortunate to get funded by eVentures. And then as Tony has spoken about 9/11 and James has spoken about 9/11, I think 9/11, dot-com bust, SARS, everything happened. And we had this very difficult phase, which we call trial by fire. And basically, we had to either shut down the company or buy back equity from our venture capitalists. Didn't have the money. And so did beg, borrow, and didn't steal Rashesh, but somehow managed, thanks to angel investors, friends, and family, and managed to get back the company. And went through the next 3 years, which I think were the toughest years, but clearly when you look back, the best years of Make My Trip. They really made you answer the question in terms of how much belief do you really have in your own idea, your own concept. There was 18 months of those 3 years where there was 0 salary. There were a lot of people who left, but fortunately there were a lot of guys who stayed on and helped me actually take the company forward. In 2005, things changed in India. 2003, 2004, IRCTC got people, Indian Railways, got people comfortable to drop their credit card online. That was a game changer for us. I think they helped build trust in the medium. And Air Deccan, Captain Gopinath actually got people to fly, and I had a very similar vision to Tony's actually, which is everyone can fly. And Air Deccan's not around, but thankfully the low-cost carrier boom went forward. Today, 75% of all seats in India, passenger seats in India, are actually low cost. And I think that's a trend which is going one way. For us, that provided a wonderful opportunity to solve a real problem, which was customers wanting cheap fares, traditional travel agents not wanting to sell cheap fares because they didn't make money, and technology could solve that problem, and we did. Took venture capital all over again, much against what I had promised myself I'd never do. But I wanted to build a brand in India, got a wonderful partner in a company called Safe Partners, SoftBank. And the next 5 years were phenomenal growth years, organic growth. We had 3 rounds of funding. We managed to IPO, which seems like a dream. Actually on a very interesting day, on 12th of August, just earlier this year. Interesting day because one of my closest friends from IIM shares the birthday with that day, who's here. And post-IPO, I mean, that seems like a dream. So I know what Tony was talking about when he said some of these things were unreal. They're really unreal because never in our wildest dreams have we dreamt about being able to do that. And then post-IPO growth, the 4 years have been a hybrid of organic, inorganic. We're learning a lot of new things. I understand what Rashesh says. We've tried to work with his firm. And it really opens your eyes to the possibilities of what you can do when you become a public company. It's a different journey. I don't think we're anywhere close to having mastered it, but we're learning. So what makes one take the plunge? I can only talk about myself. What makes one stay the course? For me, I think the turning point was after 8 years of working life. I'd done 3 years with ABN AMRO. I'd done 4 years with AMF Bowling. Believe it or not, I met my colleague from AMF Bowling here today, which is unbelievable. We last met each other in 1998. And then I did a year and a half with GE Capital. And each of those changes was made because I thought, I'm moving on to something which is closer to what I did, what I like doing. But I think the brutal self-analysis is something you do alone. I don't think you even share it with your closest person. Could be your partner, could be your best friend, could be your boss. You bounce off ideas, but you have the idea only, you know the truth deep within. And for me, it's the intersection of two things. The most important thing is what makes you tick. I think we've all got to figure out at some point of time. For me, it was really important after 8 years, I was 30, of professional working life. What do I really love doing? And what gives me joy, what keeps me going, what makes me want to come back to work every Monday, every Tuesday, every day with plans, with ideas. What keeps me back at work? I don't want to go home. I only go home because I have someone at home. And what is it and what makes me happy? And for me, that was the most important thing. The answer was around, interestingly, doing different things, doing new things, probably not having a boss, probably going the uncharted territory. I couldn't really figure it out that time. But I did know that AMF Bowling, which was actually a financial disaster for me, it was a colossal failure, was actually the happiest period of my life before starting Make My Trip. I had such a great time because there were no rules. We were trying to introduce 10-pin bowling in India and pool tables, and clearly most people thought I'd lost my marbles, which is fine. But it was a great time because I learned dhanda, I learned new things, I set the course myself. And the second part is the intersection of that Venn diagram is what are you really good at doing? And most of us, I think, go through a lot of corporate life not necessarily knowing what are we really good at doing. What is it? We do things because they're given to us. All of us from IIMs are clearly above a certain bar, so we can take up any challenge. But is it really your excellence, or is it something because it's the done thing, the safe thing? And that's a trap. I think a lot of us fall into that trap. And I did when I passed out of MBA school. I joined a bank because it was the thing to do. I joined GE Capital because I wanted to learn, and I did. But I don't think I necessarily did what I was really good at doing. Once I got that intersection, for me, the rest of it was very easy. I think the fact that if you have a less than stellar career really helps you to take the plunge. I had a less than stellar career 8 years after corporate life. I have many colleagues, many batchmates out here who had phenomenal careers. I think their chances of taking an entrepreneurial plunge are much lower. So if you have a phenomenal career, it's great. If you're loving it, it's great. You don't need to be an entrepreneur. But I think it really helped me when I look back, because I was bumbling along 3 years, 1 year, 4 years, I was really bumbling along and hadn't found my mojo. For me, this was a driving factor. I think phase of life is really important. 30, really, I think, still brave enough to take on big risks. Thankfully, with a partner who was willing to be with you through those risks. And really not used to these luxuries and nice, comfortable things of life, which I think become difficult to give up no matter what we say. At 40, I don't think I could have done that. At 35, I'm not sure I would have done that. So for me, it's definitely sooner the better if you are thinking about taking that plunge. And use that IIM degree, as they say. You can either use it as a noose. I went back and spoke at campus some time back, and I said, you've probably got one of the best degrees you can get in the world. You can either use it as a noose and be stuck to that and have to do the right thing, or you can use it as insurance, because it's a great insurance. At least in India, I think if you have a degree from any IIM, you can probably get a job at any point of time. I chose to use it as insurance, and I said, what's the worst that can happen? But I did come in saying, I'm going to give this at least 5 or 6 years, not a 1 year, not a 2 year thing. And finally, I think what really kept me going and staying the course through that trial by fire phase was really the fact that I'd had past failure. So the failure of AMF Bowling actually drove me further to say not one more, because 2 dots do make a line. And I was petrified that I would fail again. So I actually worked much harder, and I said, we can't call it quits in 15 months of starting. We've got to try harder, can't throw in the towel yet, because more than anyone else, I wanted to prove to myself that I could succeed at something which I loved doing. So I think one of the key things, and it's very easy to say in hindsight, and many marketing gurus out here, is to actually get your market right. We got lucky twice. So the first was in 2001, we stopped marketing in India because India wasn't ready. We stuck to NRI market. People were already buying online, they were comfortable buying online. And second time in 2005, we actually got lucky because we managed to pick the market right. By the way, this is a famous billboard which was put up. I guess it's a Snow, but a cola company launched their drink in, I think, Saudi Arabia, and they obviously got the market wrong because people read from right to left, and that doesn't make for a very good billboard then. Okay, I'm a big believer in not flying solo. So I think it's really important, and the single biggest factor of Make My Trip success is that I managed to hire really good people. I got really good people around me, and not just hired them, I managed to retain them. And I also managed to, I think, making two of them co-founders was a great decision. It worked for them, it worked for me. And I would recommend to anyone who's thinking about starting up a company, if you want to really scale up this company, it's really hard to do it alone. I'm also a big believer in hiring people much better than yourself. And I can say with confidence that everyone in my leadership team is way better than me in what they do, and probably way better than me in almost in every aspect. I'll have to rush. I didn't realize time has flown. So, your best friend at work, does everyone know what PETA means besides the batch of 92 from IIM Ahmedabad? Okay, so PETA is a pain in the rear. We can't be unparliamentary out here. So your best friend at work is actually very often a pain in the backside. And here's why. Because the yes men at work don't take up the decision-making quotient of your company. It just doesn't work, right? Because they agree to whatever you say, because you're the boss. The person who irritates you the most, and it took me a while to realize this, the person who irritates you the most with logic, the person who makes you look small in board meetings, the person who makes you look small in leadership sessions is probably your best friend at work. So hold on to that irritating PETA, because that person is going to actually help you improve your company and your decision making. The other really big learning around people is horses for courses. And I think it's a really funny cartoon, but I won't call it out. My big learning after 14 years is the best scale-up people don't necessarily make for the best startup people don't necessarily make the best people when you scale. So your company goes through different phases. As a startup person, you're an all-rounder. You'll grab any ball and you'll run with it. You won't say this is my work or someone else's work. Scale people are sometimes quite different. I also believe that different skill sets, that doesn't mean you discard these folks. Different skill sets at different times, and I love what Sunil Mittal does. He's very clear about which CEO can take him from point 1 to point 2. And then that startup guy is given the new projects. We've done this very successfully at Make My Trip, and it's worked beautifully for us. Ruchira, can I take 2 more minutes?
Certainly.
Okay, great. I'm going to skip some. We're huge believers, like Rashesh said. We're also huge believers in not just sharing the love, but also the money. When we IPO'd, we had over 70% of our staff, 800 people then, over 70% of our staff had ESOPs, and we're very proud of that fact. And even going forward, we've been very liberal. We've tried to make further ESOP and RSU pools. And I think if any entrepreneur asks himself what makes you sleep well at night, it is the fact that if you've done well, then everyone's got to do well along with you, especially the people who put in as much effort as you. The sad part, and this has been my tough learning, is that culture is inversely proportional to growth. And as you grow, it becomes really hard to retain culture. I've struggled with that. We're 1,300 people now. Till 200 people, I knew everyone personally. I knew them quite well. You could have a connect. After that, while we're very proud, we've got these Great Places to Work awards. They've worked out very well for us for 4 years. But the reality is that the entrepreneur starts losing touch with people. And the only way I think of countering that is to hire really good people at every level. So become almost the culture hirer for your company. So I try to come in into not just all key hires, but even young folks who are coming into the company to try to make sure that we are hiring people for values, because that's the only way you can make sure your culture stays. And finally, at the end of the day, I think happy employees make happy customers, not the other way around. So we're huge believers, like Southwest Airlines and the famous book Nuts, that I'd rather choose my employee before my customer. If you obsess on anything, it should be the customer and the customer's problems and not your competition. You should be aware of competition, but never fall into a follower mode, because then you'll only be aping them, and before you know it, you lose your own originality. We believe in measuring whatever can be measured, and that's helped us today. We're hugely analytical. We have something in online medium which is called an A/B framework, where you can test and target everything, and it's the biggest boon. So you can make mistakes, but you make mistakes with 1% of your traffic. You don't touch 99% of your traffic. It's a beautiful platform if you can build it, and Amazon is the champion of it. We've learned it, and I think we've become a better company doing that. Fail fast, retry, and also recognize, if you can't reward failure, which is a little hard to do, but recognize people who took risks, even if they failed, because that's the only way you're going to get the next bright idea coming out of your company. This is Madhuri, actually, my favorite quote is from Jeff Bezos. I don't have a better quote, but we believe in it, which is, work hard, have fun, create history, but 2 out of 3 is not an option. And that's what we say at Make My Trip. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Steve. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, we're going to give you a second to have some water, and then I have some rapid fire for you. What is the one thing you would change with 2020 hindsight in your journey as an entrepreneur?
I would have started off with a CTO tech founder, like a co-founder who was a technologist.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm amazed how far we've gone without a technologist co-founder.
Okay. So what is it you really loved about your favorite film, Casablanca?
I think the line, which is actually never said, but it really stirs you, which is, here's looking at your kid. I think it's just amazing.
Okay. And what's the nicest thing your wife, Amrita, ever said to you?
I'm still waiting for that.
We'll convey that to her.
No, in all seriousness, I think what really helped was, and she's not here, so it's easy. What really helped was she told me, whatever you do, come back home happy. Don't come back home grumpy. So she was very clear that you're not enjoying yourself, quit your job, do something, stay happy, but don't worry about the money. That was important.
Lovely. What was it like to be a 15-year-old Colombian in Europe with friends?
I wish I could do that again, actually. There were so many things I didn't do.
All right. Which is the place that you consider the best Thai food in the world? Which is your favorite food, of course?
Well, in India, I think Thai Pavilion, Bombay, and now there's one in Gurgaon, which is fantastic. But I think you've really got to go to Thailand to have the best. Like, you can probably have the best Thai food in a shack in Krabi. You just can't get that anywhere else in the world.
Okay, so we're all booking ourselves on MakeMyTrip.com.
Thank you.
Last one. 1 hour of yoga every day. Really?
3 days a week. The other 3 days I swim.
On that note, we'll let you go. Thank you so much.